Okay, so just a little bit about this class. This is a 3-week course, and we, of course, will be learning the Minute Method meditation practice. And we're going to be talking about meditation and what its ultimate purpose is, and what some of the benefits are. And also, I mean, the obstacles. Why aren't we all meditating right now anyway? It has such profound benefits. So we'll talk about what obstacles there might be. And the main thing is the inner journey, which is what meditation is all about, and what that involves and entails and provides for us. So welcome, and just know that your questions are really important part of the class because they help me to teach, and they often help the person next to you sometimes. I know with myself in classes, I have trouble sometimes formulating what my question is, and sometimes if someone else will speak up, they often have the exact question that I was wanting. So please feel free to ask your questions and interrupt any time to ask. And just as far as this class goes, it is being recorded, so be mindful of that when you're sharing, if you don't want to overshare. And also listen with respect to everyone, because we all come from different backgrounds and different experiences. And so I ask you to listen respectfully without judging, and to listen fully. And that really is one of the best gifts that you can give another person, is to fully listen to them. So just a little bit about me and what meditation has done for me. I have to say it's just totally turned my life around in a really positive way. I used to be really introverted, and I still am to a point. But I also, just my early life, my first career was in computers. And so I was doing computer support, and I was on call all the time. And my mind was just busy all the time. I'd get up, drive to work, think about what I was going to do at work. I'd go home for lunch. I would read the newspaper while I was eating, never tasted anything. Went back to work and then came home and thought about what I needed to do the next day. It was just a constant work. And that really wears the body down after a while. And after 17 years of that, I was having some real physical challenges. And that led me to seek help. And I found that in yoga. And yoga was the very first time that I had the opportunity to quiet my mind a little bit. And with that quieting came a recognition of a spiritual essence within me that I had totally shut myself off from for all of those years. So yoga eventually, after yoga helped so much, I finally found a meditation practice that really worked for me. And I tried several, and none of them really stuck. And this is the one that I would say it got a hold of me rather than me getting a hold of it. So it's helped heal relationships with some really important family members for me. And it has given me a sense of interior freedom where I can respond to life's challenges rather than react from habit or any sense of cultural conditioning or anything like that. So that's about me. I've also, as I was awakening, there was a point in my life where I was just so aware of all of the love and compassion that was flowing into me, and it's really hard to talk about that, and so it came out in some poetry and some prose, and so I wrote a book called Unfoldment, A Journey of Awakening, Reflections Along the Way. And I've also co-authored a couple of books with my teacher, Carla, and she's written many books, and I've been editing those for her to get them up on Amazon. So be sure and let me know, Mary, if my voice drops. Sometimes I kind of start mumbling or talk softly, so wave at me or something if you can't hear me well. Okay, great, thanks. So tell me a little bit about you, if you would, briefly, just your name, what brought you here today, what are you looking for, And if you currently meditate, what kind of meditation practice you do? So who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
My name is Brian O'Hare. I do not currently meditate. I tried it. I guess the closest I came was when I was younger. I ran a lot, and that it seems to me is the closest thing I've ever seen to meditation. Because if you run for a while, I mean, all you think about is your breathing and your next step. You're not thinking about anything else.
Right.
I've tried it in the past couple of years, and I'll just come home in the morning and just sit there and breathe. But I find it hard to keep it up, and I've never really understood the purpose of it. So that's one of the challenges that you're going to have to live up to.
All right. So that's why you're here, to find out the purpose?
Well, yeah, yes, and I mean, enjoy it too. I mean, it's I found it enjoyable, and then I also found that Ray Dalio, who was a famous hedge fund manager, meditates 20 minutes a day, every day. This guy's a billionaire. Maybe there's something there too, you know. So,
All right, great. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, I'm Debbie Taylor. I have tried meditation, but reading in a book, and I'm just not good with that. I need like this, hands-on, a group, and everybody doing, just being more involved that way. I have chronic migraines, and at any time I might put my sunglasses on in case you're all wondering. But I've tried everything, and medications I've stopped. I've only used certain medications when needed, but I'm just trying everything because sometimes I get sleep at night, I can't sleep. And I tried to count 100 backwards, or it's just, I would love to learn how to clear your mind. And if it's for a minute a day, 20 seconds, whatever, I'm for it.
Right.
So I'm really excited about hopefully learning it.
Great.
And doing it.
Great.
Practicing.
Great. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. That's the important part, is you have to sit down in your chair and do it.
I've tried it. I did all this, and I've sat on a pier, and I hear the birds, I hear the bridge. I just can't clear. So I'm really, really hoping that this helps.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm open to it.
And I'm Ruth Higgins, and I identify with her because it's the same for me. Even when I'm sitting, my mind is constantly, even when I lay down and go to sleep, my mind is flashing. I'm looking for something to help get rid of that, to try and realign myself and center myself. Because I do have some physical disabilities, and I do travel a lot. I've done probably 7,000 miles in the last 2 months. And even when I'm riding, I'm listening to an audiobook, or I'm thinking about the next thing I have to do. I never get that downtime, and I'm thinking this is something I need to learn. I've heard about it, how to center myself and practice centering myself and getting that part every day of meditation or something. Yeah, to help me get there.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. And Mary, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
That works better, doesn't it? My name is Mary Robinson. I tried meditation just when COVID began because my son gave me a gift subscription to, I think it was called Calm. But I found it too gimmicky to really stick with. I thought I didn't really need it. But after this long slog of COVID, health issues, all those kind of life stresses, this would be the minute method sounds like a way to try this again.
Great. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all. Did y'all want to share anything? Our gallery over here. All right.
Who are these people?
All right. This is Lynn Randall over here, and she is the president of Chesapeake Forum.
Hi.
And this is Justin. He's our newly hired tech guru. So,
Welcome. And I used to do what Justin's going to be doing, and so I started doing. So I'm here as a little bit of support for the next couple of courses before we let them fly away.
Awesome.
Great. All right. Well, let's go on. So we talked about, well, why do you want to meditate? And I think really the bottom line is what I discovered in my own journey is that I was, either running away from who knows what all. I'm not going to go into that long story for you, but just running away from hurtful emotions, the sense that I wasn't measuring up, and just a whole litany of things to be running away from. Yeah, and also seeking everything I needed to fill me outwardly, looking for, the things we look for, fame, fortune, partnerships, all of that, all those things to fill us, and they can only temporarily fill us. It's only by going in that we can find that true contentment that is rock solid and cannot be shaken. So I think within each of us there is, in fact, I know within each of us there is this inner ache or this inner yearning to find that something more that we can't find out in the world, that the world cannot provide for us. And so that is the main reason to meditate. And the good news is that along with that comes may come also a greater sense of calm, peace, contentment, and trust that all of the needs that you need will be met in each and every moment. Okay. Legitimate needs, not greedy. So the obstacles to meditating, I kind of touched on that a little bit already, is that, for me, I was just running away. I grew up in a religious household, and then I left when I was 18 for lots of reasons. And I think that kind of, played on me. So many things to that I didn't want to look at in my life. Okay. And so I think that's one of the obstacles. And also there's all sorts of fear that may prevent us from wanting to meditate. Fear of, first off, the unknown. What am I going to find when I look inside? And you might find a whole litany of fears that you might relate to or not. Okay. So as far as the inner journey goes, well, who are you really? And the truth of our being is that we aren't this physical body that is appearing here in flesh, and we aren't our mind. And we are that something more, that source that we came from. We tend to see ourselves as separate and apart from our, I'll use the word God if you're comfortable with that, creator, whatever label you want to put on that. We're never separate and apart from that, yet we tend to think that we are because of this physical sense body that we're using while we're operating on this earth plane. So, and the good news is that we're not our emotions either, which is really wonderful because they can be so messy. And the real benefit that I found from this practice is that certainly emotions rise up and you experience emotions, but you don't have to let your emotions own you. You can own your emotions. So our forms change. I am not the toddler trying to use the telephone, and I am not the fifth grader getting her school picture taken, and I'm not even this 60-something-year-old woman standing in front of you. We create these identities with our mind, and we think that's who we are, but it is not. And as you can see, just with these photos of me, that my form has changed over the years, but my source has not. And so everything around us is vibrating energy. Everything is made out of energy. The air we breathe, the walls, the physical form, and your source, the one consciousness, is energy. And it is the speed of the vibration that makes it. And if you think about H2O, well, it can appear as a mist over the farm fields around us early in the morning, or it can appear as a liquid, or as the vibration changes as a solid. But it's still H2O. It's not separate and apart from its source. It's just vibrating at a different frequency And that is what makes the difference in the appearance.
I'm a little confused with that, I guess. Are you associating our inner self, trying to relate it to the different forms that water takes, that our body takes? Is that how you're relating it to water?
So
Is that what you're trying to say?
the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about more of it. But as far as just the vibrations of energy, I mean, you may notice that yourself, like if when a certain person walks into the room and the whole energy of the room changes, or if you're having a really sad day and you kind of have this sort of feeling of slowness or heaviness about you, or if you're having a day where you're very creative and uplifted, that there's sort of a different feeling or observation. Does that answer your question? I mean, well, that doesn't answer your question,
See how
but
you're relating that, you're using water as a euphemism to show the differences.
yeah. So you are manifested from the one consciousness, the one universal consciousness. And well, we will continue talking about this through the class, but you are energy vibrating and you come from the one consciousness, which then manifests as in an infinite variety of individualized expressions of itself, but never separate and apart from the one. And then as your soul consciousness vibrates and slows down, then mind consciousness manifests. And then body consciousness manifests with all of the senses of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, all of that. And the sense of I, me, my, mine, where I am separate from you and you and you rises. And that creates a false concept of who we truly are. And so our inner journey is to go the reverse way through meditation to realize and change. Through meditation, your vibration changes, and ultimately the body can fade, the mind can fade, and you realize your oneness. And then you have to return to your body because it's self-operating. I'm so sorry. Goodness gracious. All right, see, that just changed the whole energy of the room, didn't it?
then, that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, that kind of just changed the whole energy of it too. It just kind of went blah.
Well, maybe it's all a laugh.
Yeah. So, so that is the inward journey, is to realize our oneness, our true self. Okay, and I don't know if that really answered.
I'm
your
trying to
question.
follow along, maybe I'll.
Yeah. And the truth is that you can, I can tell you about this all, but until you go inward to realize it for yourself, you can't. It's just like, I can't tell you what chocolate ice cream, I mean, I can tell you what chocolate ice cream tastes like, but you're never gonna get it unless you taste it yourself, right? You won't truly understand what it tastes like. So thank you for that question. Yeah. Another way to think about it, or to view it, is that everything is originally pure vibrating energy without any opposites. And so if you think about a prism and the light shining through it, and then it manifests as all these varied colors, and they're still never separate or apart from that pure vibrating energy source. And that is your source, that is who you are always, we just don't realize it. And I would tell you to, or suggest that you don't try to think about that too hard, because again, we are our minds. We are more than our minds, and so our true essence is beyond any mind concept that you can think of.
Just want to say, I think being a nurse, for my part, is more concrete in how things function and work. And you're doing more of the spiritual aspect of it, which is, I'm thinking in terms of black and white, you're right. That's the best way to put that. It is. That I'm looking at how the neurons make things work, and and you're bringing in the spiritual aspect of it too. That's where but I'm here. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to figure that out.
Wonderful.
And process that.
And everything is spiritual. Our bodies, our minds, everything is spiritual. it's just like if you look around this room, just look at this room or at home, look around your room at home or out the window, and so what do you see? So just name a couple of things that you see around the room.
Sunlight, I see it every day.
I'm looking at fire, whatever.
The fire thing up on the
Fire
wall.
guard or whatever.
Yeah, there's chairs, there's the monitors, there's these bodies in here. And you hit on it, it's the light that allows all of that to appear. And we don't think about the light that allows the appearances to appear. And so that's what we're missing, and that's what meditation can help us to realize. So does that help or confuse even more?
No, I really don't comprehend it because actually my back is to the light, so that's, the light is in my head, which is making that, I'm listening.
That's what you're saying, because that light on that window outside makes me feel comfortable. I feel like I'm not closed in. I don't know if that helps with all that.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just not
Yeah,
a closed in person, so when I see that light, I feel a lot more comfortable.
Mhm. But it's the light. Without the light, we can't appear. And if you think of, well, I'm not gonna be able to labor it. We're gonna meditate here just to.
Yes.
Okay.
Get started, right?
Yeah. And so I'm just gonna even skip this slide. So I'm gonna skip this too. Let's just move on. So let's just take a brief break to just stand up, stretch, move a little bit since we've been sitting, and then we're going to talk about the meditation practice. So if you want to, just stand up.
Well, I'm going to ask you what remembers too. You spoke on yoga.
Yes.
Is that something also that would be conducive to something like this?
Yoga, I highly recommend it. It's wonderful physically, emotionally, mentally. Yeah. And I've done it for 20 years. Prayer, if you're a person of prayer, that helps as well. Everybody has different things that help them to center themselves. All right, so go ahead and sit back down again. All right, so 3 easy steps, and we're going to go through each of them in a moment. So step 1 is you want to sit comfortably. Just take a long breath, let it out. Don't do that right now. We're just talking about it. You're going to relax and then breathe normally. Step 2, consciously become aware of your spiritual heart center area and rest in the silence of awareness. And then step 3, when thoughts or sensations rise, I don't say if, but when, because the mind is a thinking organ and it's going to think. When they rise, don't dialogue or engage with them. Allow them to rise, and then immediately consciously become aware of your spiritual heart center area and rest in the silence of awareness. So let's talk about each of those steps. Number 1, sit. So you can sit on a chair. If you're comfortable sitting on the floor, sit on the floor. At home, you might want to have a chair with arms on it for comfort and support. And if you have to lie down, you can lie down. But just know that a fool goes to sleep and a fool wakes up. That's what my teacher would always tell me. But I had to lie down when I first started because I was having a lot of back issues. So I would lie down with my legs up and do the practice. So there's no real rigid posture or anything that you have with this practice. Okay? And again, breathe normally. We're not trying to watch the breath. Step 2, consciously become aware of your spiritual heart center area and rest in the silence of awareness. So the spiritual heart center, it is a vibrating energy center within you. And it's the access door to your spirituality. And it was where all of the love, compassion, forgiveness resides within you always. And you may access it and rest in it. So what do I mean by rest in the silence of awareness? So we're not trying to feel anything. Most meditation practices, a lot of them, you focus on something. Okay, we're not focusing on anything. we're resting the mind, and it's very subtle. So we're going to do a little exercise to get a better handle on that. So let me tell you about the exercise. You're going to close your eyes, bring your palm up so they're facing you, and then you're going to very slowly turn your palms away from you, being aware of each and every movement as you turn your palms. And then you'll turn your palms again so they're facing you, and then when you're done, rest your hands down. All right? So indulge me, please. Close your eyes, bring your palms up so they're facing you. And I'll give you instructions and then I'll shut up so you can do it. So you're going to slowly turn your palms away from you and then slowly turn them back and then bring them down to your lap, being fully aware of each movement. So begin. Bring your hands down and open your eyes. All right, so were you aware of the movements?
I didn't hold my hands up long enough, so. I thought you were supposed to do it, just bring them down so everybody else was up here, so I had to do it again.
Oh, well, we'll do it.
But I
again.
was aware of it, yes.
All right, and
Sure.
you were aware of the movement?
Actually, when I was focusing on the turning, it relieved my mind of other thoughts.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's what awareness is. When you're fully aware of everything else, then there's no thinking going on. Okay? But let's do it one more time, because the first time you're kind of thinking about, am I doing it right? All right, so bring your palms up, palms facing you. Just take a breath and relax. And now, you're going to slowly turn your palms away, slowly turn them back, and then rest your hands down. So begin. Bring your palms down. All right. Is that any different for you? Okay. All right. Yeah. And Mary, anything to report? Or you're good?
Oh, good.
All right. Good. So that's what we mean by resting in the silence of awareness. So just being aware. And if you have trouble becoming aware of this area, you can place your hand on your heart center area for the first few practices. But otherwise, just rest your hands in your lap. Okay?
What did you mean by that? Are we supposed to focus here instead of our hands?
No, yeah, we're going to bring our awareness to our heart center
Okay.
rather than our hands when we do the
Okay.
practice.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And some people just have trouble doing that. And so you can place your hand here, but you're not focusing on the hand either. So it's not that focus. And so now, here's the part that's important, is that you don't dialogue with anything that rises. If a thought rises, it's just energy rising in consciousness. You again bring your awareness back to your spiritual heart center and rest in the silence of awareness. If a sound rises, you don't try to identify the sound. You just notice it and then immediately bring your awareness back. It's always a returning and resting, returning and resting. Okay? And so we allow thoughts in this practice. We're not trying to shut our thoughts away. We're allowing everything to rise and then immediately becoming aware again of the spiritual heart center area and resting in the silence of awareness. So we're not stopping the mind, but we'll talk about what's going on in the practice after we do it. And nobody here does a current meditation practice, so I don't have to talk about that. All right, so I'm going to stop my share here. Well, I'll just get it next. Yeah, I'm going to stop the share. All right, so I'm going to sit and we're going to meditate. I will keep the time and I'll call us out in just a couple of minutes. So close your eyes, just get comfortable. Be a nice in breath Let it out slowly as you relax your whole body. Breathe normally. And now bring your awareness to your spiritual heart center area. Rest in the silence of awareness. If anything rises, don't engage, don't converse. Immediately bring your awareness back to your spiritual heart center. Rest in the silence of awareness. And begin. And allow your thoughts to rise and become aware of your surroundings. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, so report. What were you, how was it for you?
I found if I have the intrusion of the thoughts, I would just think the word heart. Just keep pulling me back to that rather than.
Yeah, so you're using a thought to return to your heart center. You want to drop that as soon as you can.
Okay, why?
I will confess that when I first started, I kind of had to do that too.
Mhm.
But you want to drop that because that's just adding another thought. So again,
Ah,
return.
okay.
Yeah.
When I kind of focused, I kind of felt like something going through my spine. I don't know what the force was, but I just, when I would focus, it just kind of seemed to be absolutely my spine also, like something within would go through me.
So like energy moving,
Yes.
something, yeah. And so you treat that just like any other thought as well, and then rest in the silence of awareness again. And that will happen, that sometimes even inner visions, not only just outer hearing, but inner hearing or even inner smells can occur. And so you treat that just as another thought and return to rest in the heart center. Yeah, great, thanks.
I've found a lot of little distractions. I was thinking about my breathing, but then I would think about the feel of the coat or,
Yeah.
and a million little things like that. And I didn't have, it wasn't that difficult to get rid of them. I just go back to thinking about breathing, but I mean, I was just amazed how many things popped up in your mind. It's like your mind is actually trying to say, hey, do this.
There's always a million things going on around us. So it's not a focus on the breath though either. We want to let go of that, drop that, treat that as a thought as well. So
Okay.
it's always, again, just resting in this profound energy center within you that has the power of healing and forgiving and loving. So,
And mine was, I tried to focus on the heart, but I remember what you said, some people have to move their hand there, which I had to.
Mhm.
It helped me focus on the hand, which like sounds like you're gonna say, stop that.
yeah, so you
It's
want
hard.
to, I know, so we're so used to focusing or thinking, and again, this is the obstacle. The mind doesn't want to let you go. The mind is a jealous God, if you will. So that's okay. If you just return and rest again. So let's do it again. Let's do it one more time, all right? So get comfortable.
Should I not do this?
You can do that, yeah, absolutely. Just rest in this area.
I'll try not to.
Yeah. So go ahead, take a long in breath. Let it out slowly, relaxing your whole body. Relax your shoulders, your neck. And And breathe normally. And then consciously become aware of your spiritual heart center area. Rest in the silence of awareness. When anything rises, don't dialogue with it. Immediately bring your awareness to your spiritual heart center area. Rest in the silence of awareness and begin. Move your hands and feet. And when you're ready, open your eyes. All right, anything else to report?
I just focused on my heartbeat. I don't know if I should let that go too.
Yeah, you want to let that go too. It's a total letting go.
It's like I gotta focus on something. I don't know how you do it.
Well, you don't have to. It's just a return and rest. And as I said, the mind will want to distract you, and so it will bring all sorts of things at you to dissuade you from doing the practice. And just know, we'll talk about the benefits here in a second, but just know that you're more than your mind, and you need to be kind to the mind because it doesn't want to let go. So, anybody else? Observations or questions?
No, I would hear that ding or whatever go off, recognize it and focus very fast, but I would recognize it and, as you say, shut it off and go back to my focus. That little ding, whatever that is.
Oh, okay.
You know, I would hear that and then recognize it and then just go right back.
Yeah, just return and rest. And so anytime you're doing the practice, any sort of sound is not an obstacle to the practice. You just use that and as practice of returning, and you can return to your heart center 1,000,000 times. Okay. So the good news is that it does not matter what happens in the practice. I think did I stop my share? I didn't stop my share. We need to, let's see. Oh, maybe I did stop the share. I'm not sure. Great, thanks. Okay. Oh, it's still not.
So can you see it, Mary?
Okay, I think I was trying to use the arrows to.
I can see questions or comments.
Yeah, good. Okay. All right, we meditated twice. There we go. All right. So simple does work, okay? But as I said, the mind will want to distract you. But there's always something going on in the practice in that instant of returning and resting in the awareness of your spiritual heart center area. We'll talk about that. So I want to say that it's really not about what it's like when you sit and do the practice. It's about what happens in your everyday life when you go out and live your life. Because you may have 1,000,000 thoughts when you're sitting and doing the practice, and that's okay because it gives you the opportunity for forgiveness, purification, a holy instant, healing, detachment, and other realizations. And we'll talk about those through the rest of our time together today and in the next 2 weeks.
Should we do this the same time every day or just that we get it in?
That's a great question. And we're going to talk at the end of, well, let's talk about it now. So the important thing is to do it twice a day. because you do it in the morning and that starts your day off on a more even keel. And then life comes at you during your day and all of the tribulations and trials and joys even that come at you through the day. And so you do it again, either in the afternoon or evening before you go to bed. And that kind of helps restore your balance and helps you progress better if you can do it twice a day. So some people like more regimented schedules and some don't. So there really is no hard and fast rule for it. And at the end of class, we'll talk about the best way to fit it in to our life. But actually, why don't we talk about that now since you brought it up? I think that's a great, yeah.
I'm trying to get at what is it that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
It seems to me that there's two parts of it, maybe totally wrong. One is clearing your mind and learning to re-clear it. Is that it?
Actually, there's a lot more than that going on, and we're going to get into that because I talk about it's all about vibrations and your energy vibrating and your consciousness vibrating, and we'll talk about that. A great question. But let's talk about how will you fit this into your life? So how about the morning? Everybody have a clear idea of when might be a good time for you to do it? Like first thing in the morning before you drink your coffee, because your coffee's gonna wind your mind up,
And before the phone starts ringing.
right? Good, yeah.
I would have to give the morning like 30 minutes to an hour, because with my migraines in the morning, I am so foggy. And I hope that maybe this helps with that, because it takes me a while for my eyes and my brain and my body all to come together. It's really strange.
Okay.
Migraines are crazy. That's why I hope that that helps with my migraine.
Yeah. Okay, so find what works best for you. I know for me, I can just sit up in bed and meditate when the first thing in the morning when I wake up. So you don't really have to open your eyes.
I can't.
But you decide what's
Yeah,
going to
it's
work
crazy.
for you. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm like Mary, it would have to be early when I first get up and do anything, because most people know not to call before 9 o'clock in the morning, so I would have to be conscious of getting up at least by 8 to be able to get myself focused and get to that point, to have that before the phone starts ringing and life starts coming at me.
And what would it be like if you just woke up and you put a pillow behind you and sat up in bed and meditate?
Well, if you have someone laying next to you,
Pardon me, Mary?
if you have someone laying next to you, it's distracting.
Right, yeah. Although it's a possibility too if they're still sleeping, even if they're snoring, you just treat that as a sound. So it's
No. Oh, no.
But you have to find what works for you. Okay. So that morning one is important to get you started. But let's talk about the other one later in the day. When might be a good time to incorporate that? For me, sometimes when that 3 o'clock time where you start feeling tired and you want a little sugar or caffeine, I meditate then if I'm starting to feel groggy, and that really revives me.
It's done for me.
Pardon?
Does it done for me eating the sugar?
Yeah.
Try that. That's what I'm talking.
I'm almost thinking it's gonna be more than twice a day, because, if you do the first one in the morning, and I hear the one in the afternoon to try and refocus myself, but I also think when I go to bed and lay down, that would also focus me to be able to relax more, to be able to sleep. So I'm thinking at least 3 times a day.
Well, that's fine. Do it as often as you want. We don't want to force it, and we don't want to make it onerous or, get the mind involved in thinking, well, you have to do 20 minutes, which the mind wants to think, or you have to do it this way or that way. All of those shoulds you can let go of, and you really start to allow the practice to do you eventually, because it kind of gets a hold of you. Right before you go to bed is a good time. If you wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes it's helpful to meditate, and that can help you go back to sleep. Okay.
So you're saying you don't have to sit up to meditate?
You don't. You'll tend to fall asleep if you do, and that just means you're tired. So I wouldn't regularly lie down unless you really have to. But like I said, when I first started, I was having back issues and I had to lie down a lot when I was doing it.
So I'm saying, like you said, in the middle of the night, you have a hard time sleeping.
Yeah.
Do you sit up and meditate when you're having that hard time sleeping, or try to?
I usually get up, just lean
Sit up.
against the.
And then try to lay back
And then
down and
lie
go to
down.
sleep, okay.
Yeah, but again, do what works for you. Brian, anything to add about when your second meditation might be
The
best?
second one would be, is a hard one. I mean, in the morning, I, go to the gym, come back from the gym. And that's an easy time right there because I'm tired, But in the afternoon, I'm probably around 3 o'clock. But the only question then is, how do you stay awake?
Well, you may find that it's actually our minds that tire us. And so when you rest the mind, you can feel really reinvigorated. So you might give it
I
a
was thinking it
try.
was old age, but okay.
Well, they do say it's good to have a little nap.
Well, the thing that's going in my head is, if I'm in, I've heard the time where people have their eyes closed and they're like, I'm just meditating, which I'm thinking here, right? They're, they're taking a quick nap, but what you're saying is that is a time to rejuvenate yourself, I'm just hearing, people in the past say, I'm just closing my eyes for a few seconds or I'm meditating. I'm like, okay, now I can use that excuse. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying meditating, rejuvenating myself.
Examining the inside of your eyelids.
Yes.
Try it.
It's wobbling,
It's all
so you're
about,
very sleepy.
it's all about resting in the spiritual heart center area. That's the important part. I had a student who was really having trouble getting that second meditation in because she would just forget. And so she has an Alexa in her house, and so she got Alexa to remind her to do it. I thought that was genius. So that was
And
nice.
we're talking a minute. Did we set our cell phones for like a minute or a minute 30 seconds? So, we know when that minute's up.
So it's
or
really
it
not-
go over or?
Absolutely. You let the time expand naturally.
Okay.
Okay. Again, the mind wants to set rules and regulations, but your inner guidance knows how long you need to sit and how long you're able to sit at any time. And so you just sit and do it. If you have to go somewhere, then you might want to set a timer so that you don't, go over and miss your appointment. But otherwise, you just let the time be natural. Great. Anything else to add, Mary?
No.
Your second meditation? Okay. So the second meditation is really important and it helps you with your progress. So let's talk about forgiveness, purification, and what that is all about. So here's a story. When I was little, my little brother, he was adventurous and he was always breaking his bicycle. And so he begged me one day to use my bicycle, and I didn't want him to because I knew he would break it. But I gave in because he was just begging me. And 5 minutes later, he comes back and he's broken my bicycle. And so now I'm angry at him. And I'm mad. And then later on in the day, I think again about, he broke my bicycle, and I'm so angry and mad. And so he only broke it once, but now I've added on this second time and a bit. And then later on in the day, I'm so mad at him, he broke my bicycle, and I'm laying that upon him. And we do this in our lives. We dialogue about stuff that's happened in the past that's no longer happening. But when we dialogue it with it, we recreate and recreate and recreate. And so you've got all of this piled up on top of you and weighing you down. And that's one of the things that happens in the practice when a thought rises and you don't dialogue with it, and you instantly return to your heart center area at what we call an instant of, a holy instant of purification and healing can occur. And so in that instant, what happens is all of my emotional attachment, the anger that I have on this one event that's bound up together gets released. And now the anger is purified. That energy rising as anger is purified. And now there's just the memory of a broken bicycle, which has no emotional attachment to it, and it's no different than the memory of, oh, I had cereal for breakfast this morning. It's just a thought rising in consciousness without any emotional content tied up into it. And that's one of the things that happens in the practice. So you were asking about the point of the practice. That's one of the things. We carry all of this emotional baggage with us, and the practice allows that to purify. And the interesting thing is that in that instant of returning to the spiritual heart center area, when that irritating thought rises, you're not aware that the purification has occurred. But you know it later when the thought rises again, and now it's just a thought and there's no irritation attached to it. So that's the purification healing process. And so our energy, as I mentioned before, we are energy vibrating, and it is in this purest state when it first rises, and then we either use or misuse it. And so I was misusing my energy. Of course, I wasn't meditating when I was a kid, but this is just an example. I was misusing my energy then by reattaching and re-dialoguing with all of that's going on. And so now, once that energy is purified, it's available for me to use in whatever way I want. When it's all bound up in anger or whatever emotion, I can't do anything with it, and it's really, really tiring when you're holding on to anger or any sort of emotion. And so once it's free, it frees you to live a more fulfilled life because you have more creativity, more energy, and you're not harboring any anger or whatever. Okay, so so that's what occurs with the practice. And I will tell you also that if just the habit of having a busy mind gets purified with the practice, because when you engage your thoughts, you encourage them and you empower them. And so when you don't dialogue with them, like, the mind, well, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Oh, I need to go to the store. Oh, I didn't get my dry cleaning. When all those thoughts rise up, that's great. That's great. Let them rise in the practice. That's great. When you don't dialogue and return to your spiritual heart center, you are calming the mind, because you're not going on and on and on and chasing each thought down the road. So and what happens then is that you begin to take that out into your life. So you're really taking your meditation with you out into your life, because you become more consciously aware of your thoughts as they rise. And if somebody cuts you off over on Peach Blossom Street when you're headed down 50 and 322, and you 10 miles down the road, you're still conversing with that person who's gone on and they're just living their life happy as can be. You have just polluted your own energy with all of that conversation and all of that irritation. And so with the practice, you become more aware of your thoughts rising. And now you can say, oh, I'm still talking with this guy down the road who's not even here. I can drop that. You get that interior freedom of being able to drop that. Which again gives you more creativity, more energy.
So how do you do that driving down the road? You can't close your eyes.
No, you're not meditating. I'm telling you that with the practice of not dialoguing, that becomes sort of a habit in your daily life as well, and it goes with you outside. And so, I'm driving along and I suddenly am aware that, oh, I'm doing this. Now, once I'm aware of it, I have the power to stop or to continue. Does that answer your
It
question?
does. I'm just thinking, what am I going to think about?
There's nothing wrong with thinking. You're going to think, but it's when we bind ourselves up with our thoughts.
We don't let it go, right?
Yeah.
Let it go and just.
Right. Yeah. Think about the trees. Think about where you're going. Think about your driving.
That's what I'm saying. I have to focus on
Yeah,
something else.
all of that's going to happen, but you're using all of that energy appropriately, just like with anger. So it's certainly appropriate for me to be angry at my little brother for breaking my bicycle. There's nothing wrong with that. But then I can express that anger in an appropriate manner and then drop it. It's the attachment is what causes our suffering. Okay.
You know what that reminds me of, Mary? Is when you go to bed at night and your mind is all busy thinking about something else that happened during the day, and it's keeping you awake.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this practice of meditation helps you dismiss it, because you learn how to dismiss things out of your mind when you're meditating, right? It was just what Mary's been working on with you today.
Yeah. And it's really about the interior freedom of being aware. I mean, how many times have you driven down the road angry at somebody and not even realized it at first? You know, I'm just, I'll tell you a story about me. When I was first teaching yoga, I really had the revelation one day that after I taught a class, I gave myself this whole mental critique about what I did wrong. And it was just, I would spend probably an hour or more going through everything that I did wrong. My students had a great time, and they all appreciated the class, and I'm critiquing myself. Now, there's nothing wrong with reviewing what you've done and maybe coming up with some different things to do, but, when it's just this litany of, oh, well, I didn't do this right, I didn't do this right. I never critique myself on what I did well. So that is, again, a misuse of that pure vibrating energy. So it's all about detachment, and that's a really important part of the practice. And we'll talk more about detachment next week, about what that really means and what it doesn't mean, because there's some misconceptions about what detachment is. Great, wonderful questions. Anything else? All right, so we talked about the forgiveness purification and how that helps to release anything we have bound up in our consciousness, tied up in attached emotions. So, does anybody need a bathroom break? Are we good to go? We've got 30 minutes still. Oh, good. Okay, good. So let's do the practice again. That off the screen so we're not looking at it. All right, get comfortable. Take an in breath, let it out slowly as you relax. Breathe normally. Remember, we're not trying to feel anything. Bring your awareness to your spiritual heart center area. Rest in the silence of your spiritual heart center area. Anything rises, allow it to rise, and then instantly again, bring your awareness back to your heart center area and rest and begin. Allow your thoughts to rise again. Become aware of your surroundings. Move your hands and feet. And then open your eyes. All right, observations, questions, comments?
It's hard.
Hard? What's hard about it?
Just constant, just letting things go. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Good practice, I guess.
yeah, it's just always we sometimes think, well, am I doing it right? That's one of the things that comes up. And if you're sitting and if you immediately thought comes, you return to your heart center and rest in the awareness of that area. You are doing it. So we let go of right and wrong. You're doing what's necessary. And as I said, if a million thoughts rise, that's great. You're creating the space for whatever to rise that needs to rise, and then to let it go.
I think with me, it's not thoughts, it's just I'm hearing things, I can hear
And that's,
every movement around me, anything that's going on, I can hear it.
and that we treat as a thought also. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
this, it's just energy rising as a sound.
So
And
would it be good to just go in the closet and shut the light off and sit in there, in the walk-in closet, kind of like to get started and to get your mind going to do it?
Find whatever's comfortable for you.
That's
That works.
Because it's just quiet in there, right?
It's hard to find a quiet spot. What do you do if you?
Well, that's just it. You use whatever you have. So if there are sounds, you can actually go beyond the mind in the practice. And so when a sound rises and you do and you return to your heart center area and rest in the silence of awareness, you're not engaging with that sound. And ultimately, I used to meditate with a group near a busy street, and I noticed that a lot of times I was not aware of the cars after a while.
What about white noise, like this air conditioning noise?
That's just a sound rising. You don't label it, you don't dialogue with it, you again instantly return to your
I heard a
heart
lot
center
of
area.
thoughts battling themselves.
And that's great, that's great. You know,
Mary,
about being consistent with the practice. Yes.
I just wanted to ask, it feels like my body temperature changes. I'm colder
Mm-hmm.
after I've done that.
Yeah. Well, as you're meditating, if you begin to feel cold, just treat that as a sensation rising. It's again energy rising, and return to your heart center. But if you're really cold, I mean, get up and put a wrap on or something.
I did. I got a blanket across my legs.
You don't want to suffer unnecessarily.
Right.
But yeah,
Because their heart rate goes down?
I don't know. I don't know why the temperature would change. You know, it makes you more aware. I know a lot of times I'm in my apartment and suddenly I realize that my feet are cold and they've been cold for a long time. So I've just been tied up in other things, aware of them. So I don't know. Well, let's talk about the possible benefits of the practice. Some of my students say that they sleep better. They're slower to anger, or things don't bother them that used to really bother them. They don't bother them as much. They find that they're less judgmental and more forgiving, not only of others, but of themselves as well, which I think is a real gift of the practice. And their mind becomes less chatty over time, and they have more clarity in their life. Again, when we have all that emotional baggage piled up on us, it really limits our creativity. And so it can help provide more clarity in life and more patience and more compassion with ourselves and with others. And a lot of times the people around you will begin to notice a difference and they'll comment on it, something that you won't even have noticed yourself. So
My husband will love that.
Do it for him.
well, I'll do it for you.
Mary, are you seeing the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just noticed that it was saying local room share on the bottom of it.
I'm not, I'm just seeing those with the possible benefits.
Great.
Good. Okay.
Thanks for asking that. Right, so these are some of the benefits. And it also, like I said, it helps you become aware. It helps you bring you into the present now, which is really all we can really live is the present now. Because all of our memories are from the past. And memories rise up in the now. And everything that we're anticipating or expecting is in the future, which can't happen because really there is only the present now. And that helps us to live a more fulfilled life. So just to review again, it's the twice a day that's really important because it does help you to maintain your balance. You start your day off with it, and then again, life just comes at you, stuff happens, and kind of get a little off kilter. And so it can help you restore that balance. And if you want to do it more than twice a day, absolutely. Absolutely. But don't get into the habit of thinking that you have to do it. And just know that an instant, that instant of purification, that is an instant beyond all eternity. So 1 minute is enough. And you don't limit yourself to that minute. You allow time to naturally expand. So we're not trying to feel anything. If any sensation rises, you just allow it to rise and then return and rest. Don't play music, because that, of course, is going to just distract you as well. And I talked about sensations rising, that they're just energy rising. You don't dialogue or engage with them. You have the whole rest of your day to engage with anything else. So be faithful with the practice. Do it twice a day, but be gentle with yourself. So if you forget, well, don't beat up on yourself and say, oh, well, I'm just going to quit. Just start again. Just do it the next time. Don't give up on yourself. It's kind of like if you're taking medication and you forget a pill, well, you don't just throw the whole bottle of pills out. You just take it the next time that you're supposed to take it.
What about keeping a journal, a spiritual journal?
I think that's really helpful. Yeah. I've done that for many years. And as I said, you can begin to take the practice with you out into your life. Not that you're closing your eyes and meditating while you're driving your car, but that you become more consciously aware of thoughts as they rise. And then with that awareness, you have the interior freedom to decide whether to engage with it or not. Do I want to engage with that anger rising again, or do I want to drop it and live a more fulfilled life? And if you did happen to have a previous meditation practice and it rose, you would just treat it as any other thought as well. And you don't want to mix meditation practices. If you had some other meditation practice, you wouldn't want to do this one day and at the other practice the other day, because it's a little bit like walking on the beach with a tennis shoe and a flip-flop. You're not going to make very good progress. They're both good footwear for the beach, but when you have one and one of the other, it leaves you off balance. So you want to stick with whichever practice you choose, whether it's this one or another practice. You always want to stick with it.
I'm just wondering, when you see people meditating like on TV or whatever, and they're holding their hands and they're doing this, I notice you don't. You just have this relaxed like that.
Yep.
Is there some reason they do that, or
Well,
not?
that's their practice. That's what their practice is.
I mean, if they were focusing like on their hands, is that what's helping them? Is that like our hearts here, maybe theirs is their fingers?
So there's a million different types of meditation practices. So they all have their own intention and their own vibration. And so that's why you want to stick with one, pick with one and start it. Good question, though. Thanks. So again, be patient with yourself. Don't ever force the time. If you can't do a minute, do 30 seconds. Do 10 seconds. Just do it. Okay? And then the fruits of the practice get realized in your daily life as those benefits that I gave to you, that some of my students have reported back. And you also don't want to sit in your car and practice and then immediately drive, because you may actually go deeper than you realize and not be fully aware. So you want to become fully aware, move your hands, sing a song or something before you drive again, so that you are fully back consciously in your body and aware. So next week, we'll talk a little bit about conditioning, the things that sort of bind our freedom of movement on this plane. And we'll talk about detachment more, and a little bit more about energy and the one consciousness and awareness. So as far as other resources go, I teach this practice also in a Christian setting. So if you're of that persuasion, we do a class on the Sundays is on sabbatical, but the Tuesdays at 2 o'clock at Trinity Cathedral in the diocese conference room, and you can just show up if you want. And then I also teach on Zoom on Monday evening, so you're welcome to email me if you're interested in that.
Are there fees for that or just?
No, just show up.
Where's the Trinity Church?
That's on Goldsboro. And just a block down from Aurora.
It's that pretty little church.
Oh,
It's a stone church.
I'm from Denton, so I'm just not in the area.
Oh, yeah. It's
Okay.
Episcopal.
Okay.
And then other resources, if you're interested, I have copies of this book if anybody wants to look at it, and they're $5. But these books are also available on Amazon, and so if you want to purchase a book and delve more into it, I'm going to send you an email with links to purchase these there, and I include in there a description of all the books. But some of these might help you. And that's it. Practice, practice, practice. So, any other questions or comments? I really appreciate y'all's involvement and questions. I think they made the class better.
Do you think if you're having like say you get into like a family argument or something goes really bad that day, is that like the time that you should really try to focus on going somewhere and maybe trying to meditate, or, I mean, like you're really angry or you
Yeah.
just can't, it just was a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that a good time to do it, or is there no, any time's a good time?
Well, anytime is a good time. Yeah.
I don't know if you could get your mind to just be like, "Oh, it's so wound up right now or something, and your emotions are so high. Is it possible to just come down like that, you know?
Try it.
Yeah. Definitely will.
Let us know how that works for you.
A lot of drama in my family, so yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah. Report back next week, but did you want to give that to me? Or? Yeah. Did you have something to say, Brian?
No,
I guess,
Thanks, Mary. See you next week.
Okay, bye, Mary.
I guess the purpose is just clearing your mind, and that's really what you wanna do,
It's
so.
not about clearing your mind. It's not about stopping your mind. You probably will attain more clarity in your life, as I said. But what you're doing is allowing energy that needs to rise so that it can get purified. So if there's a lot of fear, anxiety, any of that rising, and when you do the practice,